Hi everyone, it's Naomi Wolf with Daily Cloud, and this is an incredibly exciting day because I'm here with Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say Representative DeLauro is really special in a lot of ways. In one way, she is the Democrat from the 3rd District in Connecticut. She represents New Haven, once my hometown, and she's done that for 27 years. And what's very impressive to me about Congresswoman DeLauro, among many things that she cares about that I feel are very important, like women's health, and she's been a strong advocate for, but one of the things that's cool about her is her ability to really lead in a very bipartisan way. She's returned to office again and again with majorities in the 60s and 70%, above 70%. So let's just get right into it.
Sure.
One of the things that was topmost on your mind and topmost on ours is the tax bill.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me why you think that's critical for us to talk about right now?
Well, because I think it is the central issue at the moment, and it has just unbelievable repercussions in people's lives. And I think we all want to talk about tax reform, but this is not a tax reform bill.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's a tax cut bill, and if you take a look at the beneficiaries, which is really pretty startling, about 62% of the tax cuts in the bill really are directed toward millionaires, billionaires, the wealthiest in our country. And let me give you some examples. And they say who benefits. That's the real issue in this piece of legislation. And the top end are the beneficiaries. We've just seen, and understand that we are moving from newspaper accounts. We've not seen a bill. We have not seen a bill. So it's leaked information.
Right?
That's leaked information. What this is. So I'm basing my comments on what has been presented in the media. So they have lowered the top tax rate again for the wealthiest from 39% to 37%.
Right.
That rebounds to the wealthiest folks. They have doubled the exemption on the state. You can't exempt from your tax liability up to $22 million before you have to pay any tax.
So in other words, it's tax-free.
Tax-free.
$2 million.
Up from individual is 11 million, couple 22.
Wow, that's amazing.
Tax-free. That's
in other
very
words,
good way to put it.
for those of you who are struggling to figure out why does this matter? How does this affect me? That's a lot of money that would have gone into our treasury for schools,
for
roads,
hospitals, for Head Start, for education, for mental health services. All of that is removing revenue that could be used for middle-class families who are struggling. The biggest economic problem that people face today is that people are in jobs that don't pay them enough money.
Right.
So they're struggling to pay their bills. They don't take vacations. People are struggling to send their kids to school because they can't afford colleges. So this is money that's just sucked out of the system.
Right. So let me restate what I think your first objection to it is that you feel that it unfairly or disproportionately benefits the wealthiest people.
Right.
Well, so devil's advocate, what the other side or the people who are in favor of this would say is that working class people, they claim, get a savings up front through the raised personal
standard deduction.
That deduction.
They will raise the standard deduction, but what they will do by raising that standard deduction, they then disallow the personal exemptions, which people have been allowed to take. So
it's like giving with one hand
and they take away with another. And the exemption of the personal, the taking away of the personal exemptions winds up being more. It's about $16,000 versus what you will get in terms of the standard deduction, which is about $12,000. So you're shorted around $4,000
if you're a middle class.
That's right.
Family.
That's
extraordinary.
Right.
Critics would say, I'm trying to be transpartisan, but a lot of people are very upset about this tax bill. critics would say it's kind of sleight of hand, that it appears
It sounds good.
It sounds
It
good up
sounds
front,
good.
but then you lose in kind of sneaky ways that you're
That's
not
right.
aware of. So you've just mentioned one way in which middle class people lose. I want to call attention to another way and ask you your thoughts about this. One of our tweets, on Daily Clout, we actually read the bill. We read the initial version of the
Sure.
bill before it got marked up and scribbled on in the
Scribbled
Senate.
in margin,
And
right.
we'll return to that. But one of the things that was really shocking to me, I'm self-employed, and a lot of creative people I know are self-employed in New York, and they really need their deductions in order to make a living. I mean, if you're a self-employed writer, things like, your computer, can be deductible. The part of the house where you do your writing can be deductible. These aren't like giant cheaty things. They're actually how entrepreneurs and small business people, manage to kind of scrape by. And I was very struck, and this tweet went to 3.4 million people when I identified all the deductions that you're going to lose. And it really seemed to kind of target self-employed people and target small businesses and protect corporations. What would you say to that? Am I misreading that?
You've not misread that at all. You have business expenses, which you no longer are going to be allowed to deduct, whereas the largest corporations will continue to be allowed the deduction.
When I actually read the bill, it almost seemed to be designed to disempower small business people and protect corporations.
It is because the emphasis is really not small businesses, so they will give lip services to small business, talk about them as the engine of growth and all of this wonderful language. In reality, it is about big business. It is about corporations, multinational corporations, who are going to get some of the biggest benefits from this bill, so that small businesses and middle-class families should not be fooled by the language. You have read the bill. Most people are not reading the bill, but that we need to communicate with people about what is actually here. And I can't make this up.
No.
I'm not just saying this, but we have economists who are talking about this, people who are studied in this area, who are making this commentary. With regard to the corporations and multinational corporations, one of the biggest issues is that we have seen over the years, and I'm sure you've heard from people whose jobs have been outsourced.
Yes.
So
that was the initial objection to NAFTA back in the Clinton years.
That's right.
And it turned out to be true.
It's true. Almost 1 million jobs lost through NAFTA. And with this bill, what we're going to allow, to continue to allow, not only those who have already outsourced their jobs, and they will be allowed to take back some of the money that they have parked overseas at a much lower tax rate, thereby losing more revenue. And also we're going to make it easier for new businesses. Let me just give you the example. If I want to set up a business, if you want to set up a business, and I want to do this in New Haven, Connecticut, I have to pay taxes on that. If I take that business and set it up in Mexico, I pay a lot less in taxes.
Oh my gosh.
That is a reality.
No one's ever explained that to me
It's
about
as
this
simple
bill.
as that.
Oh my gosh, that's shocking.
And so not only are you taking, that means when the business goes, the jobs go, and the revenue goes, and that people can park their money overseas and not pay taxes on that money.
Well, Congresswoman DeLauro, thank you so much for explaining something really critical that I literally have not heard anyone explain in those words at all. That that incentivizes people further to move jobs
overseas.
Overseas.
And so many people, as I said, the struggle is about jobs.
Absolutely.
People who have lost a job and they get rehired don't get the same salaries they were getting. They may lose their job, their wages go down. And how does that...
Bad jobs, service jobs, part-time jobs, no benefits.
Exactly, and no benefits. So what we are doing, we do have a tax code. Let's incentivize businesses to stay here.
Well, you're answering a question I was about to ask, which is, supporters of the bill say, okay, rich people are going to get even richer and they're going to shelter their income from taxation, but it's trickle down. It'll trickle down to workers. But you've just answered that. You're saying no, the jobs won't.
And we know that from the past. It has not trickled down. And there was the most interesting question when the question was posed CEOs of these large corporations, because the president just talked about how they are going to invest, how they're going to create jobs. When they were asked how you're going to create jobs, they were silent,
right.
Because what they are going to do is to take care of their shareholders.
Right.
They're going to buy back stock.
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that are going to be done.
Yeah.
And it's not going to trickle down.
Yeah.
It will not trickle down, and there will be de minimis in terms of job growth.
We don't have manufacturing in the same way. We don't have an industrial base in the same way. Those jobs are in Mexico and in China now. So, there's service jobs now in our country. So really, how could people, what would it look like for this bill to work the way Republicans are saying?
But what you can do is, first of all, you can decrease the tax load on middle-class families.
Right, and then that does what, which is good for the economy?
Which is what they will spend the money. They are not buying stock. They are, not taking care of shareholders. They're taking care of kids. And what they are trying to do is to survive, week to week. And so that if you provide them with tax relief, if you allow them to take the deductions, if you have a child tax credit. Now, there is a child tax credit in this bill. However, this is very, very interesting. The child tax credit, as it has been created, would exclude military families.
What?
Rural families.
What?
Minimum wage earners. Families who have large numbers of children, and families who have young children. Why? The question is why. Because they set the income levels at which you can participate at a range in which low-income families cannot take advantage of it.
So this is like for those dual-income, affluent, professional
we go one step
households
further.
to benefit, help pay their nannies, but working families, military families are going to be struggling.
That's right.
You lose gift cards. You lose deductions for riding your bike to work. You lose, if your employer wants to give you lunch, that can no longer be deducted. But luxury cars are protected. The construction industry is protected. Planes are protected. I was reading this bill, and I was literally thinking, you could not craft a more unpopular bill. It penalizes people for the few perks they have left in the middle class and the working class. So let me ask you, as a politician, how could anyone, the bits of money that are going to be saved by making people not able to deduct their graduate school income? Graduate students are being taxed on scholarships. That's money they never see. So if someone works hard, studies hard, wins a scholarship, never sees the money, it just deducts the amount they have to pay tuition. They have to scramble to come up with the money somehow to pay it.
They're going to have to pay if you have $30,000 in a stipend, and then you got a waiver of $40,000 on your tuition. You are now going to have to pay on $70,000.
Oh my gosh! So let me ask you this: some of these things just seem so mean-spirited and so punitive, but also really bad politics. Why? What can explain
they're
some
hoping
of
that
these
they can
things?
get away with it.
But what good does it do to take away people's deductions for gift cards and graduate school? It doesn't do any good. It just makes a party unpopular and gives people like you a talking point. Why did they do it like that?
Well, because they figure that they're going to jam it through, get it through, and the benefits...
But why punish people who want to go to grad school? Why punish people who like to work?
You've asked the question, why? And because it's about a way to give. The goal is to make sure that they are taking care of the wealthiest people, the millionaires, the billionaires. They're donors.
Right.
They're donors
who
have said, if you do not do a tax bill, you should not count on us any longer. The one piece on the child tax credit, which is very interesting, is they raised the upper levy. They raised the upper level, and quite frankly, members of Congress could take advantage of that rather than low-income families.
Well, let me add another example. The bill I read, I couldn't believe this, is it takes away the benefit you used to get if you were an employer to hire disabled veterans. And so again, I keep thinking, why burn this political capital? Why? Who wants to stand behind that bill in 2018 and answer someone saying, my dad's a veteran, he's disabled. you took away the incentive his employer had to hire him. I mean, I know I'm asking the same question to you over and over, but
It is. They figure they're going to get away with it because they will have the wherewithal from their donor class to be able to provide them with the wherewithal.
I guess
but I think
what I
the
mean-
public is not going to be fooled.
they're not there. Yeah.
One
Yes.
a tax credit they've taken away, and that's for blind people.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
I'm not kidding.
So let me try again. I mean,
Why?
I'm asking a bunch of questions, but I guess I'm just so I'm so used to politics having an end game, even if it's not the end game I agree with, right? And I guess what I'm wondering is, so when I looked at this bill as a whole, it really seemed to me like a giant piece of social engineering to heighten the divide between the wealthy and everyone else, to gut entrepreneurs and small business people, to make the rich kids the only ones who can afford to go to graduate school, law school, medical school, to really create a kind of fortress society in which there was no competition, no challenge, no social mobility to the elite. Am I overreading that? Otherwise I don't get this bill.
You're actually not overreading it at all. But there is such pressure for the majority to pass something.
Right.
They were unable legislatively.
You were saying that you felt the Republicans were under pressure to pass something. They couldn't get rid of the Affordable Care Act legislatively, so.
Right, so they're being viewed as having failed in what they said that they were going to accomplish in their first year.
Right.
It just hasn't happened. So that they have moved on this tax proposal, which they've cobbled together, and they've cobbled it together to satisfy their very, very wealthy and donors. In addition to that, they have been trying to trade pieces with Republican members to say, if you like this, we'll put it in if you'll give us your vote.
Right.
You may not like that, but what can we do for you?
Because
they're under the gun to pass a piece of legislation,
Representative
which is...
Bartkowski comes to mind, I have to say.
right.
She got Alaskan drilling. And
That's right. That's right. Now, there's still some people who are yet undecided on some things, but this is, and these are not my words, this is probably one of the worst pieces of legislation we have ever seen.
It's extraordinary.
In the US Congress.
Well, those are strong words, and you would know, you've been doing this for 27 years. So let me move quickly. It's weird. A lot of people watching this are kind of baffled that you are a member of Congress and you are learning about these changes in the bill from the same media that we are following as well. I was startled to see handwritten scribbling because I'm a legislation nerd, and I know that there's a process of entering it in Congress.gov and publication and public hearings. And is this an unusual process to be so secretive, and shouldn't you be able to see the bill and tell me what's in it as a reporter?
Absolutely, but it follows a pattern of what happened with the Affordable Care Act.
But isn't that unconstitutional or
It's
against our rules?
It's not what it really isn't what we do. In 1986, when we passed tax reform, it was a bipartisan effort. This has not been a bipartisan effort. The Democrats have not been included in any of these
But neither
discussions.
have the people.
It has been secretive.
Yes.
I was on the elevator the other day. He was going to a meeting at 3:00 where they were going to show him the bill for the first time.
But doesn't that violate Senate rules? I mean, I looked at how a bill becomes a law, and there's steps 6 and 7, which
there
is
has been
publication and
there's
public
no hearings, no hearings.
I mean, isn't that a subversion of democracy, that there are no hearings, the public can't see the bill?
It's not illegal, but it is a subversion of democracy.
It's a subversion of our process.
The process has just been thwarted. It has just been thrown to the wind.
So this is very chilling. I mean, of all the things you've described, people can debate about is what's in the bill good or bad, but the fact that there's darkness in what has been a process and an order that has served this country for decades and decades, if not a couple of centuries, is the most concerning thing.
I just want to say is because this creates a $1.5 trillion deficit.
Thank you.
If it's 1.5 and it's already been stated in the press,
Right.
what is going to happen is that the majority is going to come back and say, we have to make up the deficit. Where are we going for the deficit?
We're going to raise taxes on
no,
middle class.
we're going to go to Social Security.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to Medicare.
That's right.
We are going to education.
Oh, my gosh.
We are going to food stamps. We are going to social services. The social safety net, there will be a massive assault on the social safety net as a result of this bill.
Extraordinary. Well, I hope you're all listening, and that leads to my last question, because we've got these mobilized millions of people out there who care,
Yes.
and who care about you talking to them and explaining it, and now they want to know, they want me to say to you, Congresswoman DeLauro, what can they do? What would you say?
Well, I would just say it has to be what people did with regard to the Affordable Care Act.
What was that?
And that folks wrote, they called, they marched, they protested. They went to visit their members of Congress and told them, this is unacceptable. We need you to vote against this kind of legislation. We can, Democrats and others can stand together, we can be unified, but this is an institution where you have a lot of well-meaning people internally, but it's the external on the pressure on the institution that makes a difference in what passes legislation. We need people's external pressure on the institution. Well, you have to exercise your vote. It's what it is. That's what you have. And members of Congress understand that to a fairly well. We run for office every 2 years.
Right.
We are, and when nothing focuses the mind like a death sentence.
Right.
And so that's
That's
right. So that you can. They want to know that they're going to be able to get your vote.
Right.
So you are in touch with your own congressman, congresswoman, but then if they're fine, what you need to do is to get on the phone and call your friends in other districts in other states, and just gather them and say, go down to your member's office. If you believe like I do that this is the wrong thing to do, that you need to go and do that. Use your power to empower others.
So let's really drill down, because a lot of, our brand is about the how. So when I walked in, there was a lot of security. It's hard to, you can't just show up and ask to see Representative DeLauro or, Representative French Hill or other wonderful people who have given time to Daily Clout. But there are things people can do. Number one is, correct me if I'm wrong, Congresswoman DeLauro, how you vote isn't public, but the fact that you vote is available to elected officials. It's a matter of public record, as I understand it.
Yes.
So it is very important for you to vote, to be in those off years especially. People forget, or they get lazy, or it's not a presidential election. So you do need to vote if you want to have that neutron bomb effect, as one political
Elections have consequences.
They do.
If you stay away, then you are at the mercy of whomever.
Right.
Whether you agree or you disagree, but you need to cast a vote so that you have a stake in what's happening. The district offices.
If I'm living thank you. So if I'm living in New Haven, Connecticut, one of the things we've been telling people to do is sign up your friends and neighbors in your network around an issue, get their commitment to vote and to support the elected official if they do the right thing, and to work against them if they don't do the right thing, make commitments to put up signs on lawns, offer to drive people to polls, and then make an appointment with those names with the district office. And how would you do that?
I would. It's absolutely correct. What you do is you could go to the district office. I get a call from my district office, and they say to me, we've got 15 people here who are concerned about whatever it is.
And they tell you that.
That's right. They call because
even as few as 15
yes.
people. So 50 would
50
really
people,
make an impact.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so they say, something is going on.
Right.
I need to pay attention to this. And if I do not pay attention to it, it is at my own peril.
So what's the best way, how do they make an appointment? They just call your chief of staff? People need to know, who do you call?
In the district, there's usually a district director.
Okay.
There is a scheduler.
Okay.
So you
pay
pick up the
attention,
phone,
everyone pay attention.
And you call the scheduler. And sometimes, quite frankly, at my office, people show up.
Right.
And they show up at the office, and they come in and they say, we'd love to talk, I'm not there, I'm here, but you can say, we'd like to talk to someone. Right. But you call and you make an appointment to come in, that you want to come in and talk about.
And how do you hyper empower, if this person doesn't just want to be one person, but wants to represent as many people as possible.
Bring in as many people.
Physically bring
in as many people as possible.
So that's not considered rude or disruptive. They won't be arrested if they show up with 100 people.
Well, at least in our offices, they won't be arrested. I can't. But no, they won't. No, what? No.
And should they have a petition or
No,
some sort
they
of
can come in
document?
and talk about, talk about what they want to talk about. There's usually people come in with an agenda
Right.
of what they want to say. Look, I don't hold this office.
Right.
Except for the people of the 3rd Congressional District
Love
who
that.
vote for me.
I love that.
I represent them.
Yes.
I'm their advocate.
Yes.
They need to let me know what it is that they care about. And sometimes we will disagree, but we will agree. And it's my job to tell them what to have a dialogue with them. But I represent their interests.
Fantastic.
Why else am I serving here?
So this is so good. So call the scheduler, show up with all your friends and neighbors, and also, isn't it useful, I'm just asking, we're brainstorming here in a way, isn't it useful for your staffers, for those 100 people that, this person has contacted in New Haven on Facebook and Twitter, and they've organized maybe in a potluck and they have an agenda, isn't it helpful for them also to have a list of names and addresses and commitments, like I'll drive to people's polls, I'll put a sign on my lawn, I'll do a fundraiser to give to your staff? Doesn't that help?
That is
Make their
very,
voice heard?
very helpful. And what's really been quite remarkable since January is that we have seen a very, very potent grassroots effort, that people have become engaged. They believe that they do have, they have to have skin in the game, otherwise they're going to be cut out, and they are also thinking about running for offices themselves.
Fantastic.
Which is very good, but you just need to communicate who you are, what you care about to your representative. And you'll either vote with them or you won't, depending on what they do.
Right. But I love your help in explaining the most effective how, because I want, and Daily Clout wants, and it sounds like you want too, citizens of America to not leave the lobbying to the lobbyists.
No,
right? Like
you lobby.
You lobby.
And they need to know what you're prepared to do in order to say thank you for your help and your support.
Absolutely. And then my last point I really want to make while I've got you here, correct me if I'm wrong, is isn't it true that if citizens did this more and more at the grassroots level, it would balance out the effect of special interests and money on politics? Because you need those votes, right? You don't need what people don't understand is all these vast sums of money that are going to our process are only being spent on getting those votes, right, through advertising primarily. It doesn't go into the pockets of the campaign or the politician. It's aimed at getting those votes. And so if citizens can come and say, I will bring you 100 people, I'll bring you 50 people, I'll bring you 30 people, here are the votes.
It's your voice that
right?
will make a difference.
Doesn't that
does
level
make
the
a
playing field?
difference. That really
More.
does level the playing field. And that's what's been out of whack for a while. But I'm encouraged because I think people are on their feet. And you can't get tired.
Right.
You just got to continue, because I think we had real success legislatively with the Affordable Care Act.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we can have success.
Right. And that was from
on
all
tax-
the action,
That was
the
all of the
advocacy.
activity
Right.
outside of the institution
Right.
that weighed in. And when a member gets up and says, I am going to be opposed to this because I've heard from thousands of people in my community that have said they don't want me to support this effort, that I'm here because those folks put me here. I have to respond to their concerns.
Fantastic. Well, that's very inspiring. And even though we're living kind of in dark times in terms of the shadows over the process with this particular bill, and even though it's a super scary bill, I think you've persuaded me in a nonpartisan way, persuading people out there that there are some things they should really look at. And you can read the earlier version of the bill on Daily Clout, the later version.
We still don't have.
When will you have it?
We understand we'll have it over the weekend or on Monday.
Don't they?
And the Senate is voting. The Senate is supposed to be voting on this on Monday.
That is crazy.
And we're supposed to vote on Tuesday.
So this is especially important. If you're an independent or a Republican, call your representative
and find out what's in the bill.
What's in the bill?
And have you read the bill?
And how can we avoid this in the future? I mean, this is very frightening. Can we help you pass a federal law that mandates that the bill will be made public and changes to it will be made public in advance of a vote?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are some rules and regulations around it. You have to
They're
post
ignoring
it. You have to post it, days before. But what they can do is they can call for same-day deliberation.
How do we change that? How do we
Well,
support
you have to get legislation
All
that
right.
deals with that.
All right, so we'll look for a sponsor
Look for
for that
one,
on
do that,
Daily Bread.
right.
Is there any final thing you want to say to your constituents or to the people of
Well,
America about this process?
I just say, there's so much at stake, and people should understand and know about what happens in the Congress. We are only here because the American people put us here in our various communities. You have every right, you have every obligation, in my view, to be in touch with us, to tell us what you are thinking, to let us know the struggle that you and your family are facing, and what is it that we can do as your elected representative to help to make your life better.